Let me tell you a story today. A criminal case that took place back in 1995. Most of the stories I share are set in the 80s and 90s. I rarely talk about cases after the year 2000. The female protagonist of this story is named Xiao Miumiao, but we'll just call her Miu Miu for short. She was born in 1975, which made her exactly 20 years old in 1995. Miu Miu was born in Xining, Qinghai, before her family moved to Lanzhou, Gansu. The two cities are actually very close, just around 190 kilometers apart, less than 200. You can barely tell the difference between the accents of Xining and Lanzhou locals when they speak Mandarin. I, as someone from Lanzhou, can't distinguish between a Xining native and a Lanzhou native unless they speak their local dialects. Moving from Xining to Lanzhou was just a short trip within the northwest region for Miu Miu. What did she look like? I don't have any photos of her, but I can describe her for you. She was short and overweight, standing at just 1.52 meters tall and weighing around 65 kilograms. For someone that petite, that weight made her quite bulky. Like most people who grew up in the Northwest, she had dark skin, a result of the region's harsh, windy climate. She was far from being a beauty, she was just an ordinary-looking woman. She had a dull expression on her face and had received very little education. We don't need to dwell on her childhood or schooling, there's nothing interesting to say about that. Let's start our story when she was 19 or 20 years old. She was completely unremarkable when you saw her on the street, short, plump, with a big head and no visible neck. Hardly the kind of woman who would turn heads. But when she turned 19 in 1994, this young woman, who was quite adventurous for her time, decided to leave Lanzhou and head south to Shenzhen, Guangdong. What could a 20-year-old woman from the Northwest, with barely any education, hope to do in a big city like Shenzhen? Probably nothing more than odd jobs and manual labor. I think most young girls who go out to seek their fortune start off without a clear plan. They just take things one step at a time. Miu Miu was no exception. She couldn't speak a word of Cantonese, but Shenzhen was a better fit for her than Guangzhou, being a migrant city. Most people there spoke Mandarin. In contrast, Cantonese dominated in Guangzhou and Shantou, making it almost impossible for outsiders to communicate if they didn't know the dialect. It didn't take long after arriving in Shenzhen for Miu Miu to become a prostitute. You might wonder, how could a woman as plain and dark-skinned as her make a living doing that? Well, she did, and she ended up working in a song and dance hall. It was there that she met a Hong Kong businessman who ran a business in Dongguan. His surname was Zeng, the same Zeng as in the name of the famous Hong Kong celebrity Eric Tsang. Cantonese families commonly have surnames like Liang, Xing, and Tan. As we've established, Xiao Miumiu was far from being a traditional beauty. She had bulging fish-like eyes, nothing like my own round eyes, and cursed like a sailor. I once told you about the time I sold jeans at a clothing market in Shijiazhuang. There was a young man named Hua Hua, as in the legendary martial artist Hui Yuanjia, who ran a stall 2 spots away from mine. We often had lunch together, and I'd frequently see a woman hanging around his stall. From a distance, she would yell at him, spewing profanities. "Hey Hua! What cha up to? What are we eating for lunch today?" Then she'd ask, "How many pairs of jeans did you fucking sell today? How much cash did you make?" I remember asking Hua once, "Why do you hang out with that woman?" He just laughed and said, "You don't get it. She's actually a great person. Trust me." I never saw what he saw in her. I've noticed that people from certain parts of Hebei have a habit of inserting swear words into every sentence, even when talking to their own parents. You might hear a kid say, "Dad, What the fuck am I supposed to do later? And the dad would reply, I'm gonna go buy some fucking groceries. You stay your ass home. I'll be back in a bit. Every single person there talks like that. I've always suspected that woman was from that area. It's a fascinating quirk of regional culture, isn't it? And Xiao Miu Miu was exactly that kind of woman. Her mouth was never free of swear words. So what was it about her that was so appealing? We'll never really know, but let's get back to that Hong Kong businessman, Mr. Zing. In 1994, he was in his early 40s, tall, handsome, and in great shape from regular workouts. He had a chiseled physique with well-defined abs. Sharp and savvy, he was a wealthy man who ran a hardware business in Dongguan. But he also had a major flaw. He was a notorious womanizer. He kept several mistresses and showered any woman he took a fancy to with money and gifts. Then he met Xiao Miu Miu at that dance hall. Strangely enough, after just a few encounters, he was completely smitten with her, so much so that he couldn't bear to be apart from her. We'll never understand what she had that captivated him so deeply. He told her, Miu Miu, you're the most amazing woman I've ever met. I've traveled all over Southeast Asia, and I've never seen anyone like you. Was that the truth? Judging by his actions, it sure seemed like it. In 1994, he said to her, Miu Miu, quit this job at the dance hall right now. This place is beneath you. I'll take care of you. I'll give you 6,000 yuan a month. Let that sink in. This was 1994. Back then, my monthly salary was less than 300 yuan, not that I showed up to work much anyway. I was always skipping out to hang out with friends. I never even bothered checking my paycheck stubs, but that's roughly what people were making at the time. So 6,000 yuan a month was an absolute fortune. On top of that, he rented her a fancy apartment that cost 30 yuan a day, a luxury at the time. The 6,000 yuan was just her fixed allowance. He also showered her with expensive clothes, jewelry, and other gifts, spending a fortune on her without hesitation. He was terrified of losing her, treating her like she was made of glass, afraid to hold her too tight, afraid she might break. And for her sake, this serial womanizer dumped all his other mistresses, declaring that he only wanted to be with Miu Miu. He truly believed she was the best thing that had ever happened to him, and those days together were the happiest of his life. That is, until one day when a close friend of his, a Mr. Yang, called him up. Mr. Zing, he said, you need to come out and meet me. I have something important to tell you. Mr. Zing, who was on very good terms with him, replied, we're brothers, just say it over the phone. But Mr. Yang insisted, no, you have to come in person. I'll meet you at a cafe. It's urgent. Now, let's switch gears and talk about another key figure in this story, Qiao Lifu. I wonder if any of you have heard of him. He was quite a famous man back in the day. A native of Shandong, he was born in 1964, 1 year younger than me. He came from a very poor family. Growing up in the 1960s, times were tough, and his parents struggled to feed their many children. His mother tried to make ends meet by running small errands and selling whatever she could, but life was a constant battle. She was often bullied and exploited by others, and the stress and humiliation eventually became too much for her to bear. When Qiao Lifu was still very young, she committed suicide by hanging herself. Devastated by his wife's death, Qiao Lifu's father blamed himself for being too weak to protect her. Determined to ensure his sons would never suffer the same fate, he decided to send them to learn martial arts. Not long after his wife's passing, he left Shandong with his children and moved to Dalian in the northeast, a city not too far from Shandong. There, he turned to a distant relative named Li, who worked as a martial arts instructor at the Dalian Public Security College. The exact nature of their relationship is unclear, but this Mr. Li took Qiao Lifu and his brother under his wing and began training them in martial arts. Martial arts training is grueling, and Qiao Lifu's older brother couldn't handle the hardship and eventually dropped out. But Qiao Lifu was different. He was not only tough but also extremely talented. He stuck with it, and by the time he was in his late teens, he had become a highly skilled martial artist, specializing in Sangda, or Chinese kickboxing, a combat sport designed for real-world fighting, widely used by police and military forces to subdue criminals. Qiao Lifu's skills were extraordinary. He won every martial arts competition he entered, representing the Dalian Public Security College and bringing home countless championships. Impressed by his talent, the college offered him a job as a martial arts coach after his graduation. Later, the Hubei Institute of Physical Education in Wuhan came knocking, luring him away with a prestigious position as a martial arts expert. It was like how universities today headhunt famous professors. They offered him a house, a job for his wife, and even helped him with his household registration. This was all back in the 1980s, mind you, a testament to just how renowned he was in martial arts circles. Representing Hubei Institute, he went on to win multiple national Sanda championships, cementing his status as a true martial arts master. There was no denying it, Qiao Lifu was a force to be reckoned with. In the 1990s, Qiao Lifu left Hubei Institute and moved south to Shenzhen, Guangdong. He landed a job as a martial arts instructor at the Shenzhen Police Academy, a position that only someone with his reputation and skills could have secured. Shenzhen, being a booming, open-minded city in the south, suited him well. He even opened his own martial arts school, where he taught students in his spare time. Around that time, a famous local nightclub was plagued by gang fights and troublemakers. To maintain order, the club's owners approached Qiao Lifu with an offer. They wanted him to work as their head of security, or enforcer. To sweeten the deal, they even gave him a 30% stake in the club. So by then, Qiao Lifu had 3 jobs: martial arts coach at the police academy, owner of his own martial arts school, and part owner and security chief of a popular nightclub. Unsurprisingly, he was making a fortune, earning several $100,000 a year in the 1990s, a staggering sum of money back then. Life was good, to say the least. And it was at that very nightclub where Qiao Lifu crossed paths with Xiao Miumiu, who worked there as a prostitute. The two started seeing each other, and before long, they were deeply involved. Just like Mr. Xing before him, Qiao Lifu was utterly bewitched by her. At the time, Qiao Lifu was already married with a daughter, but Miumiu turned his world upside down. He stopped coming home, neglected his child, and eventually moved in with Miumiu in a rented apartment. He once said of her, "She's perfect, absolutely perfect. You could search 1,000,000 people and never find someone like her." Let me take a moment to talk about what makes a woman a rare gem. It's not about looks. You can't tell just by glancing at someone on the street. It's something you have to experience firsthand. You might meet 1,000,000 people in your life and never find that special someone, but Xiao Miumiu was that rare gem for Qiao Lifu. He considered himself the luckiest man alive to have found her, cherishing her like she was a priceless treasure, afraid to lose her, afraid to let her go. He catered to her every whim, never daring to defy her. He told her, "Anything you want, just say the word. I'll do anything for you, as long as you don't leave me." Now, let's circle back to Mr. Xing and his friend Mr. Yang. The two men met at a cafe, and Mr. Yang wasted no time getting to the point. "Mr. Xing," he said seriously, "you have to listen to me. This is important. Do you know about your Miu Miu? She's seeing someone else, a martial arts instructor. Trust me, this guy is dangerous. You need to break up with her immediately, before it's too late. He warned him, if this martial artist finds out about you, he'll ruin you. You're a Hong Kong businessman doing business on the mainland. He could destroy your business, ruin your reputation, and bring disaster to your entire family. Women can be a curse, my friend. Let her go. Don't be stupid. Mr. Zing was stunned. What? She cheated on me? I give her 6,000 yuan a month, a fancy apartment, everything she could ever want, and this is how she repays me. She's got some nerve. But he shook his head and said, I can't do it. I don't care who this guy is. I love her too much to let her go. Mr. Liang sighed. You have to. You really can't afford to mess with this man. Take my advice, end it now, while you still can. In the end, Mr. Zing had no choice. He knew his friend was right. His business and family were too important to risk. Reluctantly, he broke up with Xiao Miu, consoling himself with the thought that there would be other women in his life. To soften the blow, he gave her a large sum of money, tens of thousands of yuan, before sending her away. And just like that, that chapter of his life came to an end. Meanwhile, Qiao Lifu remained completely oblivious to Mr. Zhang's existence. He continued living with Xiao Miu, and according to official reports, they were blissfully happy together. One day, he said to her, Miu, I make hundreds of thousands of yuan a year. I'm not a tycoon by Shenzhen standards, but I can definitely afford to give you a comfortable life, nice clothes, good food, anything you want. Quit your job at the nightclub. Stay home, be my lady of leisure, play mahjong all day. You don't have to work another day in your life. Miu agreed, but she had one condition. Fine, I'll quit, she said, but there's something you need to do for me first. When I worked at that club, there was a female supervisor surnamed Chen who always bullied me. She looked down on me because I'm from the Northwest, always picking on me for no reason. Before I leave, I want you to teach her a lesson. I want you to get revenge for me. Qiao Lifu didn't hesitate for a second. No problem, baby. Leave it to me. I'll handle her. A few days later, Qiao Lifu gathered two of his thugs, his right-hand men, from the nightclub. One of them was nicknamed Yellow Hair, and I can't remember the other one's name. For these seasoned enforcers, roughing up a small-time club supervisor was child's play. One night, Qiao Lifu led his men straight to Supervisor Chen's house. Bursting through the door, they yelled, "Don't move! Hands up!" Supervisor Chen was terrified, stammering, "What's going on? Who are you people? Shut up and do as you're told." They snapped. They proceeded to ransack the house, making off with valuables worth over 300,000 yuan, jewelry, jade, and other expensive items. They weren't about to carry off a TV or furniture, obviously. But Qiao Lifu wasn't satisfied. He called Miu to brag about what they'd done. "Baby, we cleaned her out, got over 300,000 yuan worth of stuff. How's that for revenge?" Miu wasn't impressed. "Only 30 yuan. Pathetic. That's not enough. Go back and get 200,000 yuan more in cash, make it an even 500,000 yuan. If you don't bother coming home tonight. You sleep on the street." The thought of being denied access to her was too much for Qiao Lifu to bear. "Anything for you, baby," he said quickly. "No problem. I'll get it done." He hung up the phone and turned to his two men. "We're not finished yet. We need 200,000 yuan more in cash. It was late at night, and the only way to get that kind of money on short notice was to force Supervisor Chen to withdraw it from the bank. So they dragged her out of the house and took her to a nearby bank branch. Lucky for them, it was open late. What happened next was pure stupidity on the part of Qiao Lifu's two henchmen. They stood guard by the door like a couple of idiots while Supervisor Chen went up to the teller. Seizing her chance, she spoke rapidly in Cantonese, quietly telling the teller that she was being kidnapped and begging for help. The teller immediately called the police, who arrived within minutes and arrested the two thugs red-handed. The morons were still standing there, waiting for Supervisor Chen to come out with the money, when the cops cuffed them. When Qiao Lifu heard what had happened, he cursed under his breath. Shit! This is bad. He wasted no time. He ran for it, fleeing the scene before the police could track him down. But running away didn't solve the problem. His two men were in custody. Panicked, he rushed back to Miu Miu and told her what had happened. Baby, we messed up. The cops caught the two guys. Miu Miu flew into a rage, pointing her finger at him and screaming insults. You idiot! You fucking moron! How could you be so stupid? And you call yourself a cop? You're useless. She paused, taking a deep breath to calm down. All right, it is what it is. We have to lie low for a while. Let's get out of here. Go back to Lanzhou. Qiao Lifu was stunned. Lanzhou? But what about my martial arts school? My job at the police academy? My stake in the nightclub? I'll lose everything. Miu Miu glared at him. Quit your whining. We're going to Lanzhou, and that's final. Oh, and one more thing, we need to make one last score before we leave. Qiao Lifu blinked. One last score? What do you mean? I know a guy, a Hong Kong businessman named Zeng, she said, a cold smile spreading across her face. He's loaded, and he's a total sucker. We're going to rob him. We need the money to lay low in Lanzhou. Qiao Lifu had no choice but to agree. Wait, let me correct something I said earlier. I just remembered the two thugs didn't actually get arrested. When the police showed up, they managed to slip away in the chaos and escape. So Qiao Lifu tracked them down and told them his new plan. We're leaving Shenzhen for Lanzhou, he said. But before we go, we're going to hit one more target. A Hong Kong guy with deep pockets. My girl says he's easy pickings. His two men readily agreed. Whatever you say, Brother Qiao. We're with you. The details of the heist don't matter much. What matters is that the three of them managed to kidnap Mr. Zeng. They took him to a rented apartment and held him hostage, demanding a ransom of 800,000 yuan. This was in March 1995. 800,000 yuan was an astronomical sum back then. They threatened to kill him if his family didn't pay up. Mr. Zeng was terrified. He didn't care about the money, he just wanted to live. He called his wife, Mrs. Chun, who was also from Hong Kong. Honey, he said, his voice trembling, you need to get 800,000 yuan in cash quickly. It's a matter of life and death. Mrs. Chun was distraught, but she didn't know what to do. She consulted with her family, and they debated whether to call the police or pay the ransom. In the end, a relative made the decision. If the kidnappers are from Hong Kong, paying the ransom might get him back safely. But if they're mainlanders, who knows? They might kill him even after getting the money. But we have no choice, we have to gamble. Don't call the police. Pay the ransom. so they contacted the kidnappers to arrange the drop-off. Miu ordered them to have Mrs. Chun deliver the money in person. She has to be the one to bring it, she said. No one else. Mrs. Chun, a wealthy woman who cared more about her husband's life than money, didn't hesitate. She withdrew 800,000 yuan in cash and delivered it to the designated location as instructed. But here's the twisted part of the story. Miu had one final order for Qiao Lifu. Now that she's seen our faces, we can't let her go. Take her to grab the money and the woman. We are not leaving any loose ends. Poor Mrs. Chen, she went there to save her husband, only to end up a hostage herself. The couple was locked up together in the apartment. And once the kidnappers had the 800,000 yuan in their hands, they did the unthinkable. They killed both Mr. and Mrs. Xing, silencing them forever. Now, let's talk about how the police finally cracked the case. Sometime later, an elderly farmer was working in his vegetable field in Fenggang town, Dongguan. I wonder if any of you are from Dongguan? There, he stumbled upon two large woven sacks. Curious, he opened them and was horrified to find two dead bodies inside. One was a man, his head severed from his body. It was Mr. Xing. The other was a woman, her head still attached, Mrs. Chun. The police were called to the scene, and they began their investigation. Examining Mrs. Chen's body, they quickly deduced that she was from a wealthy family. One clue that gave it away was her feet. They were deformed from years of wearing high heels. The forensic team noted that such extensive foot deformation from high heels was uncommon among mainland Chinese women in the 1960s, when Mrs. Chen would have been young. High heels were a luxury most people couldn't afford back then. This led them to conclude that she was likely from Hong Kong. From there, it wasn't long before they identified the victims as Mr. and Mrs. Xing, the wealthy Hong Kong couple who owned a hardware factory in Dongguan. But the most shocking discovery came from the autopsy. The forensic report revealed that Mrs. Chun had been beaten to death with bare fists. Can you imagine that? Killing someone with nothing but your hands takes incredible strength and skill. And when they examined Mr. Xing's body, they found that he had met the same fate. He too had been killed with a single powerful punch to the head. Remember, Mr. Xing was a fitness enthusiast with a muscular, well-trained body, six-pack abs and all. It was unfathomable that someone could kill a man like him with one punch. The police immediately realized they were dealing with someone who was not just a criminal, but a highly skilled martial artist. The investigation led them straight to Shenzhen Police Academy and right to Qiao Lifu. The breakthrough came when Mr. Xing's friend, Mr. Liang, went to the police and told them everything he knew about Xiao Miu and her martial artist boyfriend. The police then went to investigate the apartment where Xiao Miu had been living. The building's security guard provided a crucial lead. Yes, I remember her, he said. She lived here with a man who always wore a police uniform. He looked ordinary enough, but we got into an argument once. He tried to enter the building without showing his ID, and I stopped him. He got angry and said he worked at Shenzhen Police Academy. It didn't take long for the police to confirm the man's identity. Everyone at the academy knew Qiao Lifu. The trail went cold for a while, but eventually, the police tracked the fugitives down to Lanzhou. There, they arrested Xiao Miu, Qiao Lifu, and his two accomplices, bringing them all to justice. In the end, all four of them were convicted of murder and kidnapping and sentenced to death by firing squad. And that, my friends, is the end of the story. It took me an hour to tell it. The question I've been pondering all this time is, what was it about Xiao Miu that made her so irresistible? What was her secret? Whatever it was, it wasn't in her face or her appearance. It was something deeper, something intangible. It just goes to show how strange and mysterious human attraction can be sometimes. It defies all logic and reason.